Thank you for tuning in to Local News Live, a production of AOC Community Media in partnership with The Advocate, our source for local journalism and local coverage of our area. The Acadiana Advocate gives us all the news that we need, covers all the important stories, and we thank them for their service. And you can thank them for their service by going over and getting a subscription or just supporting their efforts in journalism, period. Speaking of supporting efforts this morning,
I'm alive.
as you can hear, I am right in the middle of a war with weeds that my neighbor is waging, and so
Yes,
I'm
I
going
hear
to
that.
get off microphone so that we can hear the news without the weed whacker. So thank you so much, Bruce.
Well, thank you, my main man, Matt. Well, good morning, Acadiana. This is Bruce Cohen. I'm here to read you all the news that fits into the time frame that we have allowed for you this morning. And of course, if you've kept up with the news or have a TV or have talked to your neighbors, you know that John Bell Edwards, the top story this morning is moving to phase 2 here in the state of Louisiana. So Edwards announces a further loosening of restrictions by Sam Carlin, staff writer. Louisiana is loosening its restrictions aimed at slowing the spread of the coronavirus, allowing bars to reopen and expanding the occupancy requirements to 50% for a host of businesses, Governor John Bell Edwards announced on Monday, yesterday. The decision, made after consultation with state health officials, comes 3 weeks after Edwards said he would end the state's stay-at-home order and start a phased reopening. The first phase of that reopening allowed a host of businesses, like restaurants, retailers, and casinos, to operate at 25% occupancy. The second phase will begin Friday, Edwards said. The new rules let businesses that have been operating at 25% capacity boost that to 50%. Bars that don't serve food will be allowed to open for the first time since March, albeit under a stricter 25% capacity. Some other businesses that have been shuttered, including spas, massage establishments, and tattoo parlors, will be allowed to reopen with restrictions. We still have work to do, Edwards said. We still have restrictions that have to be in place. Dr. Alex Billio, Assistant Secretary for the Office of Public Health, pointed to largely positive signs in the state's coronavirus data. New cases, reports of COVID-19-like illnesses, and hospital stays have all fallen statewide. Still, some of the areas of the state have seen increasing or plateauing metrics. New Orleans is experiencing plateauing cases, according to the Louisiana Department of Health. Central Louisiana has seen spikes in cases and hospitalizations, and Monroe has increasing hospitalizations as well. Some health experts have cast doubt on the state's ability to accurately determine whether it is ready to move into phase 2. New Orleans Health Department Director Dr. Jennifer Mbengo said last week it was a little premature for the city to make the call this early. On Monday, Mayor Latoya Cantrell confirmed the city, once a major hotspot nationally for the virus, would not follow the state's lead and instead would wait to enter into such a robust loosening of restrictions. But Billio pointed to the fact that the state has dramatically ramped up testing and contact tracing, a key part of the reopening strategy. Louisiana exceeded its goal of 200,000 coronavirus tests deployed in May and has hired 613 people to conduct contact tracing. While some regions are not improving, Billio said he's confident that the state has the ability to track infections, and he says some of the problems are related to congregant settings like nursing homes and prisons that don't generally pose a risk to the public. Despite this generally good trend, we must continue to double down on the measures we now work. Billio said, goal should still be to stay 6 feet away from each other. The state is still not mandating people wear masks while in public, but Edwards' administration is urging restaurants to deploy temperature checks at the door as restrictions are loosened further. And public-facing employees will continue to be required to wear masks. Billy O also encouraged people to avoid businesses where people aren't following health advice like wearing masks. High-risk individuals, the elderly, and those with underlying health conditions are encouraged to continue to stay home in the new phase. Everyone is encouraged to wear masks when outside of the home, and businesses are urged to keep employees working from home if possible. Don't put your life at risk for something like a bowling game, Billy O said. The loosened rules come as Republican Attorney General Jeff Landry and more than 50 Republican state lawmakers, along with one Democrat, signed a letter urging Edwards to open up all businesses and to have the same set of regulations for all. House Republican Delegation Chairman Representative Blake Miguez said Monday businesses are struggling with a patchwork of rules from different boards and regulatory bodies. He also echoed concerns of other Republican lawmakers, citing the restrictions on occupancy are arbitrary. Business has sacrificed for 8 weeks now and hasn't been able to open like they'd like to, Miguez said. We're taking the American dream away from some of our citizens. Louisiana will hit harder and earlier than most states by the coronavirus, experiencing the fastest growth rate of cases in the world at one point, according to one estimate. In March, Edwards became the 9th U.S. government to issue a stay-at-home order. Since then, unemployment has soared, and economists have raised alarms about a hard road to recovery for a state hammered by a simultaneous crash in the price of oil. Miguez led an effort earlier in the session to undermine Edwards' ability to enforce the stay-at-home order, but backed off after the governor began reopening the state's businesses. A section of law is not included in a special session call issued by lawmakers, meaning they cannot take it up during the session that began Monday evening and runs the entire month. The governor said he based his rules on White House guidance for reopening and said that guidance treats businesses differently depending on the level of risk. In explaining the decision to have bars operate at reduced capacity in the new phase, 25% instead of 50% for other businesses, Billy O pointed to South Korea, which saw an explosion of cases at bars during its reopening, and prompted officials to shutter bars in Seoul. In Louisiana, bars will have to operate like restaurants with patrons sitting at tables that are spaced out. And looking locally, as far as the coronavirus goes, the COVID-19 coronavirus, the latest locally, outbreak confirmed at Borden facility. New cases come amid an uptick in the parish by Ben Myers, staff writer. Multiple employees of the Borden Dairy Processing Facility in Lafayette have tested positive for coronavirus over the past week, the company confirmed on Monday. The dairy outbreak coincided with a large number of new cases reported last week in Lafayette Parish, with a 7-day rolling average of newly reported cases and the positive testing rate are both currently at levels not seen for weeks. Despite the dairy outbreak, the recent uptick in Lafayette is not tied to a particular location, according to Tina Stefanski, the Louisiana Department of Health Administrator in the Acadiana region. Stefanski said the recent Lafayette Parish cases are not like those last month in Acadia Parish, which were tied to crawfish processing plants. The large driver of this increase is not congregant settings, Stefanski said, of the Lafayette Parish cases. The biggest driver to the increase is outpatient or community spread. Stefanski said it's too early to tell if the recent increases represent a satisfied or a sustained trend. We don't want to make any big statements based on a couple of days of data. It's definitely a trend we will continue to watch, Stefanski said. A board spokeswoman said an employee notified his or her supervisor on May 21st that they did not feel well and wanted to get tested for coronavirus. The results came back positive on May 25th, and the facility was then temporarily shut down for sanitation. The vast majority of the 150 employees of the facility then received the free rapid test through May 27th, with some returning positive, and the spokeswoman, Adrienne Chance. She said the company is not disclosing how many employees tested positive. Every employee at the facility has since been tested, along with delivery drivers and other workers who may have been exposed, she said. The facility had not previously shut down during the coronavirus crisis. It is operating with temperature checking for all upon arrival at the plant, mask wearing, social distancing, and numerous other safety measures, the company said in a statement. Those measures were in place before the first employee tested positive, Chan said. With 25 new cases reported on Monday, there have now been 119 new cases in Lafayette Parish over the past 7 days. This is the highest 7-day rolling average in Lafayette since April 8th. While testing has expanded during that time, the positive testing rate has also crept up over the past week. The new cases in the past 7 days represent a 7.1 share of new tests that were also reported in that time. That is still below the threshold of 10% that Governor John Bel Edwards has established for the state, but it is higher than what has been seen in Lafayette. The overall positive test rate in Lafayette Parish since the start of the crisis has been above 4.8% for 3 days in a row. It was last at that level on May 6. Okay, other stories in the news other than coronavirus. Former police leader talks reform. Run for Marshal comes in nation grapples with unrest. By Megan Wyatt, staff writer. As a Black man with nearly 3 decades in law enforcement, Reggie Thomas has a unique perspective about what's unfolding across the United States in the week since George Floyd died at the hands of police. Thomas, 54, announced Friday that he's retiring from the Lafayette Police Department and running to replace suspended Lafayette City Marshal Brian Pope in the November 3rd general election. Thomas is hoping to bring experience and perspective to the role during a turbulent time. I think my qualifications speak for themselves, Thomas said, and I think my transition from the city police department to city marshal is a natural one because I'm a leader in the community. Thomas attended Sunday's peaceful rally against police brutality and racial profiling in Lafayette, not as a member of law enforcement or as a protester, but as an observer. I watched and I was very impressed, Thomas said. I was so pleased, it was peaceful, and so many people came together. Thomas said there are 3 key things that need to happen in law enforcement agencies to prevent further police brutality against minorities. They include increasing diversity and promoting from within so that police departments accurately reflect the diverse communities they serve. Reforming disciplinary and termination practices so an officer isn't able to voluntarily quit before being fired only to find another position at a different department where he or she can abuse the position of authority again. Including at least 1 or 2 civilians on the board that reviews police-involved shootings, deaths, and other serious incidents. These things are so important, Thomas said. I'll be talking about that a lot more going forward. In February, Tucson Police Chief Kip Judice also announced his intention to run for city marshal after voters elected Pope over him in 2014. Pope was suspended from the city marshal's office in October 2018 after he was convicted on 3 malfeasance in office charges. C. Michael Hill, a retired federal magistrate and civil litigation mediator, was sworn in as interim city marshal to maintain order while Pope's appeal works through the courts. In his position as deputy chief, Thomas led the Lafayette Police Department's day-to-day operations, overseeing a team of 289 and a $33 million budget. Thomas says he's more qualified to lead the team of 23 people in the city marshal's office, which has an annual budget of about $2 million. The top-ranking minority of the police department also served as interim police chief for several months in 2016 after retirement of then-chief Jim Kraft. He recognized that the department appointed a team that had solved several cold murder cases, increased diversity within the department, and created a community relations committee. You have to force the officers to get out of the car, Thomas said. You have to make an effort to get them out and walk in the community. By doing that, I would hear people saying they never knew they had such nice people in the area because every time they're normally there, it's to make an arrest. Although Thomas wanted to apply for the Lafayette Police Department's top role in 2016, he did not at the time hold the 4-year bachelor's degree required for the position. Former Lafayette Mayor President Joe Robideau created the deputy chief position for Thomas in 2017, and Toby Aguilar became police chief. Thomas has since completed his 4-year degree, but city leadership has led to a number of changes within the police department. Before Josh Guillory was sworn in as Robideau's replacement as mayor president in January, he told Aguilar to either resign or be fired. At the last minute, Aguilar resigned with a $70,000 settlement from the city. Guillory appointed Scott Morgan as interim police chief and indicated he will eliminate the deputy police chief position. I was going to make a demotion where I could retire, Thomas said. I just choose to retire and hopefully transition into another position where I can continue leading this community. Okay, let's turn to a couple public service announcements. Okay. AOC teams up with United Way of Acadiana for Learn United. United Way of Acadiana has teamed up with AOC and other local educational groups for Learn United, bridging the digital gap to provide educational resources for households that don't have internet but do have a television. The Learn United program airs weekdays from 8 to 2 on AOC 2 and Cox 16, LUS 4, and streaming at aocinc.org/watch for the daily schedules and to submit content for the program. You can visit the United Way of Acadiana website, unitedwayofacadiana.org/learn-united. Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline. If you're feeling overwhelmed with stress, fear, and anxiety about the uncertainty surrounding this public health emergency, there is a special Keeping Calm Through COVID hotline you can call. This connects you to trained, compassionate counselors who can offer support and who can direct you to mental health and substance abuse counseling services. Trained counselors are available 24/7. All calls are confidential. If you feel you need this type of reassurance and help, please call 866-310-7977. That's 866-310-7977. Medicaid resources. If you have lost your job or if you have reduced hours, you may be eligible for Medicaid. You can apply online at mymedicaid.la.gov. You can also apply by phone by calling 888-342-6207 or by mail by sending information to Louisiana Medicaid, P.O. Box 91283, Baton Rouge, LA 70821. Local Medicaid offices are currently closed to the public, so if additional assistance is needed, you can call again 888-342-6207. And locally, Stop the Spread, call instead, #Stop the Spread. For the latest COVID-19 updates and information, locally you can call 311 or visit 311lafayette.services. Call centers with volunteers and medical professionals are active 24/7 to answer your questions about COVID-19 and to determine if you need to get screened. You may also call 311 and press option 2 if you're a business owner or employee or looking for a job to get information about applying for small business recovery loans, apply for unemployment benefits, and related programs. Okay, going back to the news. And if I read this, let me read one more PSA that relates to the story. Vitalant begins testing all blood donations for antibodies to COVID-19. Dual benefit, donors learn their antibody status and patients receive critically needed blood. Today, Vitalant, or yesterday, June 1st, Vitalant became the first national blood bank to test all blood donations for antibodies to SARS-CoV-2, the coronavirus that causes COVID-19. The nation's largest independent nonprofit blood collector, serving hospital patients in South Louisiana, is providing the test results to donors who complete successful blood donations, which are critically needed now. The antibody test authorized by the FDA or the Food and Drug Administration will indicate if the donor's immune system has produced enough antibodies to the virus, regardless of whether they ever showed symptoms. It's possible that over time, the broad use of antibody tests and critical follow-up will provide the medical community with more information on whether a person who has recovered from COVID-19 is at a lower risk of infection, and if so, for how long. For more information, you can contact vitalant.org/COVID-free. Donors are urged to get blood as soon as possible. Appointments are strongly recommended. Visit Vitalant, that's VITALANT.org, or call 877-258-4825. And now, going back to the news, we will read about an antibody testing added. Vitalant expands donation screenings. So this is just a news story in conjunction with the PSA I just read. Vitalant says it is now testing all blood donations for antibodies to COVID-19. The nonprofit community blood service provider announced Monday that test results are being provided to donors who complete a successful blood donation. The test approved by the FDA indicates to donors whether the immune systems have produced antibodies to the virus, whether or not donors have ever shown symptoms. According to Vitalant, the broad use of antibody tests and clinical follow-up will provide the medical community with more information on whether a person who has recovered from COVID-19 is at a lower risk of infection, and if so, for how long. While a positive antibody test does not mean that someone is immune to COVID-19, it does mean they may be eligible to donate convalescent plasma in the future and help people with the disease, said Cliff Newmark, Vitalant's chief of marketing, in a prepared statement. Convalescent plasma can be given directly to patients currently battling COVID-19 to help boost their ability to fight their illness. Vitalant began collecting and distributing convalescent plasma in April. Okay, continuing in local news. Lead counsel defense parts way in 2017 officer killing case by Ben Myers, staff writer for the Advocate. Legal representation for the man accused of murdering a Lafayette police officer is in turmoil after the lead defense lawyer, Stephen Singer, separated from the nonprofit organization handling the case. Singer, on May 14th, was terminated from the Louisiana Capital Assistance Center, which represents indigent defendants in death penalty cases, according to the organization's filing in the case last week. The filing suggests that Singer's departure was acrimonious, requests that Judge Jules Edward determine who is now representing the defendant, Ian Howard. Howard signed a retainer agreement with Singer, who sent the agreement to the Central Assistance Center, according to the filing. Capital Assistance Center acknowledges Howard's right to discharge representation appointed to the public defender system, but the organization wants the judge to ensure Howard has knowingly done so. The reasons for Singer's departure were not immediately clear Monday. The move followed the state's public defender's board decision to redirect about $335,000 from contracted nonprofits to district offices, but strong language in the filing suggests other circumstances at play. The organization has ruled out working alongside Singer, given the circumstances of the termination of Mr. Singer's employment from LCAC. Subsequent events between Mr. Singer and the LCAC, the posture of the case, the needs of the client, and the difficulties foreseen in any co-working relationship, the filing states. The filing goes on to say that working with Singer would also prove unworkable for the staff of the LCACA and the office itself, and that the organization absolutely will not co-work this or any other case with Steve Singer. Elliot Brown, a Capital Assistance Center lawyer who worked with Singer on the Howard case, said the organization will not comment beyond the filing. Singer declined comment. The shakeup comes at a critical moment for Howard, who was pleading not guilty by reason of insanity in two related cases involving the shooting of 4 people, including Lafayette Police Corporal Michael Middlebrook, the lone fatality, at a Lafayette convenience store on the night of October 1st, 2017. The cuts to nonprofit public defense contractors eliminated money from mental health experts, reviewing Howard's case, prompting the Capital Assistance Center to request a trial delay in the first case. The trial on 3 attempted murder charges involving the non-fatal victims had been firmly scheduled for next month after Edwards allowed multiple previous delays to allow the defense to investigate Howard's mental health history. But there remains a substantial amount of work for defense experts and no money to pay them, according to the center. The judge allowed for another delay, and the first trial is scheduled for November 9th. Howard is expected to be separately tried in the Middlebrook case sometime thereafter. While the cases are technically separate, the Capital Assistance Center is handling both because they stem from a series of incidents. Said District Attorney Keith Stute's office is seeking the death penalty in the Middlebrook case. Howard's lawyers have acknowledged that he shot all 4 victims. The first 2 were civilians that Howard shot with his own gun, and the second 2, including Middlebrook, were responding officers who he shot with the store manager's gun. But Howard's lawyers, calling his schizoaffective disorder, saying he was unable to tell the difference from right and wrong on the night of the shooting. In the local crime blotter, and the story is prepared by the Advocate staff reports, warrant issued for a suspect on Poydras Street shooting. An arrest warrant has been issued for a suspect in a weekend shooting in the 200 block of Poydras Street in Lafayette. Lafayette police officers responded about 3 a.m. to a disturbance involving a firearm and found one victim suffering from a single gunshot wound to his lower torso, according to a statement from the police department. Medical assistance was provided to the victim, and he was transported to a hospital where he is listed in stable condition. Investigators secured an arrest warrant for Nathaniel Zeno for 1 count of illegal discharge of a firearm and 1 count of felon in possession of a firearm. The investigation is going. 1 man was killed and another injured early Saturday morning after a high-speed chase in Evangeline Parish, according to a statement from the Louisiana State Police. A trooper intended to pull over Mackenzie Dixon of Ville Platte, who was driving a 2003 Saturn 200, according to the statement. Shortly before 1:30 a.m., the 31-year-old pulled over on the shoulder, but then accelerated away, leading to a pursuit. Kevin Arvey of Ville Platte was in the passenger seat while Dixon fled at a high rate of speed at LA 10 near LA 106. He failed to negotiate a curve and lost control of his vehicle. The vehicle left the roadway, partially overturned, and struck a tree. Arvey, 33, suffered fatal injuries in the crash and was pronounced dead at the scene. Dixon was transported to a hospital with moderate injuries. The men were not wearing seatbelts, police said. A toxicology sample was obtained and will be submitted for analysis. The crash remains under investigation and charges are pending. Well, it's now almost 9:30. It's almost the halfway mark in our broadcast this morning. So I will go to the day in history, the zodiac, and the funerals today in the Kittyhawk area. Today in history. Today is Tuesday, June 2nd, the second day of the hurricane season. Yay! The 154th day of 2020. There are approximately 212 shopping days left in the year. Today's highlights in history. On June 2nd, 1941, baseball's Iron Horse Lou Gehrig died in New York of a degenerative disease, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. He was 37, or it's also called Lou Gehrig's disease. On this date in 1886, President Grover Cleveland, who was 49, married Frances Folsom, 21, in the Blue Room of the White House. To date, Cleveland is the only president to marry in the executive mansion. Also on this date in 1897, Mark Twain was quoted by the New York Journal as saying from London that the report of my death was an exaggeration. Twain was responding to a report in the New York Herald that he was grievously ill and possibly dying. In 1924, on this date, Congress passed and President Calvin Coolidge signed a measure guaranteeing full American citizenship for all Native Americans born within the U.S. borders. In 1953, the coronation of Queen Elizabeth II took place in London's Westminster Abbey, 16 months after the death of her father, King George VI. In 1966, U.S. space probe Surveyor 1 landed on the moon and began transmitting detailed photographs of the lunar surface. In 1979, Pope John Paul II arrived in his native Poland on his first visit by a pope to a communist country. In 1981, the Japanese video arcade game Donkey Kong was released by Nintendo. That's for all you gamers out there. In 1995, the U.S. Air Force F-16C was shot down by a Bosnian Serb surface-to-air missile while on a NATO air patrol in northern Bosnia. The pilot, Captain Scott F. O'Grady, was rescued by U.S. Marines 6 days later. In 1997, Timothy McVeigh was convicted of murder and conspiracy in the 1995 bombing of the Alfred P. Murray Federal Building in Oklahoma City that killed 168 people. McVeigh was executed in June of 2001. On this date in 2009, Scott Roeder, an anti-abortion activist, was charged with first-degree murder and the shooting death of late-term abortion provider Dr. George Tiller in Wichita, Kansas. Roeder was later convicted and sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 50 years. 10 years ago, amid the Deepwater Horizon oil spill crisis, BP chief executive Tony Hayward apologized for having told reporters, "I'd like my life back," calling the remark hurtful and thoughtless in a statement posted on Facebook. 5 years ago, President Barack Obama signed the U.S. Freedom Act, extending 3 expiring surveillance provisions of the 9/11 era USA Patriot Act. And 1 year ago, an out-of-control cruise ship rammed into a dock and a tourist riverboat on a busy Venice canal, injuring 5 people and renewing demands that cruise ships be kept out of the Italian city's lagoon. Looking at today's birthdays, actor-singer Sally Kellerman is 83. Actor Stacy Keach is 79. Rock musician Charlie Watts from the Rolling Stones is 79. Rhythm and blues singer Chubby Tavares from the group Tavares is 76. Movie director Lasse Hallström is 74. Actor Jerry Mathers is 72. Remember from Leave It to Beaver fame. Actress Joanna Gleason is 70. Comedian Dana Garvey is 65. Actor Gary Grimes is 65. Rock singer Tony Hadley from Spandau Ballet is 60. TV personality producer Andy Cohen, Real Housewives and the TV franchise, is 52. And rapper B Real from Cypress Hill is 50. Thought for today: we are minor in everything but our passions. Quote from Elizabeth Bowen, Irish author, 1899 to 1973. And we turn to our zodiac or the horoscope. Geminis, trust in your judgment, not someone else's. Don't limit what you can do because you are too busy doing things for others. Put your responsibilities first before helping others. Cancer, emotional spending will not lower your stress. Spend your time productively. Find outlets that will help you declutter your life and push you in a direction that brings money in, not out. Leo, having fun will come at a price. Think before you promise to enjoy in something costly, risky, or that can threaten your health. Too much of anything is discouraged. Virgos, which you may know as my birth sign, think twice before you do something that might jeopardize your reputation or your relationship with someone you have to deal with daily. Diplomacy will curb an adverse reaction. Libras, take time to relax and plan your day. Personal growth and a lifestyle change will be the boost you need to motivate and inspire you. Enjoy, but don't overspend. Scorpio, a premature move will leave you feeling uncertain. Do a quick tally of your expenses to put your mind at ease before you continue, and an unexpected reunion will intrigue you. Sagittarius, helping others is honorable, but don't let anyone take advantage of your generosity. Charity begins at home, and time spent nurturing a meaningful relationship will be worthwhile. Capricorn, a change in home or regarding your job looks promising. Speak up about the way you want to see things unfold, and you will make an impression that will help you get you what you want. Aquarius, home improvements, financial gains, and a personal change that boosts your ego are all within reach. You refuse to let anyone stand between you and your happiness. Romance is favored. Pisces, take better care of your financial well-being. Taking risk will put you in a dangerous position. Think before you act or commit to something questionable. Aries, follow your heart and your passion. Pursue your dreams and find the happiness you long for. Develop skills that will help you market who you are and what you want to pursue. Taurus, uncertainty will set in if you try to make a move without being prepared. Too much of anything will leave you at a loss. Be moderate, regardless of what others choose to do. And as always, the horoscope or the zodiac is an entertainment feature not based on scientific fact. Looking at the funerals today in the Kenneana area, Michael Barra, Pellerin Funeral Home in New Iberia at 1 p.m. Rose Hernandez, Martin and Castillo's La Fleur de Lis Chapel in Lafayette at 1 p.m. Christian Taranto, St. Genevieve Catholic Church in Lafayette at 11 a.m. And Joseph Wittenberg Sr., St. Edmund's Catholic Church at 10 a.m. All right, turning back to the news. One legislation session ends, another begins. Mark Ballard, Capitol Bureau Editor. After negotiations with Louisiana's Democratic governor faltered, with only about 15 minutes left in the regular legislative session, Republican legislators went ahead Monday night and passed a bill the business community claims could lower the price of auto insurance. A minute after the regular session ended, legislators gavelled in for a 30-day special session to tackle the $30 billion operating budget that has come up about $900 million short, consider a string of tax breaks to help businesses struggling to recover from the coronavirus closing, but which would further hurt the state's revenue picture, and if necessary, attempt to veto override should Governor John Bel Edwards reject the Omnibus Premium Reduction Act of 2020. Called tort reform by supporters, chief sponsor State Senator Kirk Talbot, Republican from River Range, argued that auto insurance is so expensive because Louisiana's civil court system differs so much from the rest of the country. His Senate Bill 418 or 418 will make technical changes long sought by the business community, such as extending the time to file a lawsuit, allowing more injuries rather than judges to decide cases, and limiting the amount of damages that could be considered, all in an effort to lower the price of politics. Opponents, mostly lawyers who represent injured people, argue that the changes are so sweeping and dramatic that individuals will lose much of their ability to seek and receive recompense for injuries caused in wrecks that were not their fault. Plus, opponents point out that while the wording of the measure suggests insurance companies lower their rates if their litigation costs go down, nothing in the bill requires insurers to do so. Talbot and his supporters spent the weekend with Edwards and his staff hoping to negotiate a compromise that will keep the governor from vetoing the legislation. Unfortunately, we did not come to what I call an agreement of sorts, but we did change this bill the way it came out from the Senate floor and the House floor. I think it is a great bill. I am proud of it, Talbot said. Edwards wouldn't comment Monday night. His press office indicated the governor would answer questions on Wednesday. The legislation finally passed the Senate on a vote of 28-10, two more than the 2/3 necessary to override a gubernatorial veto. The House approved the measure on a vote of 66-31, 4 less than needed to sustain an override. The regular session was strange and unprecedented. The annual gathering opened March 9th, the day the first Louisiana resident tested positive for coronavirus. A week later, lawmakers met just long enough to recess, but for one short meeting on March 31st to handle some paperwork, the state capitol was locked down for 49 days. 2 lawmakers tested positive. A third had all the symptoms and went to the hospital but wasn't tested, and a fourth died, freshman Representative Reggie Bagula, Republican from Cutoff. Legislators returned on May 4th with promises that they'd focus on rebuilding the economy after 6 weeks of being closed in hopes of stemming the spread of the pandemic, but their agenda was crammed with hundreds of bills. Few everyday citizens and advocacy groups showed up, and the business community pressed bucket list legislation, such as suspending the franchise tax. Legislators agreed to expand Louisiana's medical marijuana program to cover nearly any condition doctors want to treat. Parishes will get the vote on whether to legalize sports betting, and people can carry guns into church with the permission of the pastor, but not the congregation. House Speaker Clay Schnecksider and Senate President Paige Cortez, during a news conference on the state capitol steps after Monday's work, said the business leaders who comprise a task force dedicated to the economic recovery from the coronavirus would guide their efforts in the month-long special session. We have a plan to try to put Louisiana businesses back to work, Cortez said, adding lawmakers will debate several tax break measures for businesses to see which ones have the best return on investment. Cortez also noted that of the 41 items that can be taken up in the special session, more than a dozen are related to the budget and capital outlay, and others, like tort reform, were added just in case they couldn't pass them in the regular session. Even though legislators may legally restart the budget process from scratch in the special session, House Appropriations Committee Chairman Jerome Z. Zareng, Republican from Houma, noted that they have a budget bill that was sent to the Senate last week. Using that measure as a starting point, Zareng said his committee will begin conducting hearings Tuesday and take a vote by Friday. He doesn't expect any major changes to the spending plan that was passed by the House, which will largely mirror the governor's plan to use more than $1 billion in coronavirus, and you think I would know that word really well now. $1 billion in coronavirus aid to balance the current and upcoming fiscal year budgets. Lawmakers in the waning minutes of the session also passed legislation that would take $300 million of the $811 million in federal coronavirus aid destined for local governments and use it instead of a grant program for businesses. The bill, which would leave $511 million for local governments, has earned the ear of Governor Edwards, who said he wants to allow governments to tap into the full $811 million, even as his administration says it's unlikely they'll be able to use it all. Okay. Continuing with Louisiana State news, LSU issues a roadmap to reopening, Capitol News Bureau staff. Interim LSU System President Tom Galligan detailed Monday in an email how the Baton Rouge campus will return to operations as Governor John Bel Edwards moves the state to phase 2 of reopening. LSU has already brought back 25% of its staff, and under phase 2 plans to return about half the workforce. We are looking ahead to the fall semester. We are excited to say that we plan to be open and ready to hold classes on campus. We are planning for all facilities and buildings to be open and accessible to our students, faculty, and staff. But as noted, we will continue to strive to protect the health and safety of the LSU community. Galligan wrote, "This means that things may look a little different on campus, but that's okay. Together, we will navigate the challenges that COVID-19 presents to us, and we will adjust our policies and protocols as needed." So here are some of the safety protocols: physical distancing. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and the state of Louisiana will still recommend physical distancing of 6 feet or more whenever possible. Face coverings. The CDC and the state of Louisiana will recommend face coverings or face masks. Face coverings are especially important in spaces such as hallways, elevators, and stairwells, which are not large enough to provide 6 feet of space between all individuals. Expect face coverings to be required of the entire LSU community this fall, Gallagher said. He urges everyone to try to obtain face coverings now, since they can be difficult to find and may take some time to receive after you order them. And since one will probably be not enough for an entire semester, take care to wash cloth face coverings daily, learn how to wear and remove them correctly, and never touch the outside of the face covering and then touch your nose, mouth, or eyes. Cleaning. Use increased cleaning protocols recommended by the CDC to ensure that all campus buildings are cleaned and sanitized consistent with that guidance. Hand washing hand sanitizer. It is recommended that everyone wash their hands, often with soap and water, for at least 20 seconds, or if hand washing is not feasible, use hand sanitizer with at least 60% alcohol. Virus testing. Random testing between 10% and 16% of the populations of all LSU system campuses statewide for COVID-19 this fall. Participants would be selected randomly from a list of students and employees, and those selected would be encouraged to participate in the testing, although not required. Anyone who tests positive for COVID-19 would be interviewed in an effort to determine who they have been with recently, so that accurate contact tracing can be achieved. Every effort would be made to locate and test anyone believed to have been exposed. The goal of this plan is to determine the incidence of the virus on LSU's campuses and to locate and mitigate any possible clusters of the virus. Anyone who tests positive for the virus should contact a healthcare provider immediately, notify the LSU Emergency Operations Center at reportcovid@lsu.edu, and should follow the guidance of their healthcare provider regarding self-isolation. LSU will offer assistance to students who test positive to ensure so they can isolate properly, to check on their condition, and to provide guidance regarding makeup classes work. LSU Office of Human Resource Management will provide guidance to any employees who test positive regarding questions about leave time and health insurance. Provide a voluntary mobile app to our community that would include a symptom checker for users, as well as a contact tracing function to help those who test positive identify anyone they may have inadvertently exposed. Antibody testing to LSU employees as they are returning to campus in phases. The cost of virus and antibody testing is covered for employees on the LSU First Health Plan. Employees on a state office of group benefits health plan should check with the LSU Office of Human Resource Management or testing coverage. According to academics, the academic calendar, at this time LSU is planning to start the fall semester on schedule. LSU is exploring holding classes on campus through Thanksgiving, and after the Thanksgiving holiday, having students finish the semester online and not return to campus. This will prevent anyone who traveled over Thanksgiving and may have been exposed to COVID-19 from returning to campus, potentially exposing others. Classroom spaces. LSU is closely looking at all classroom spaces on campus to find ways to spread students out in classrooms. Whenever possible, smaller classes will be held in larger rooms so that students can physically distance. In areas where that is not possible, face coverings will be required, especially in hallways, stairwells, elevators, and other confined areas. Hybrid courses. Some LSU's fall course offerings may involve a hybrid of in-person and online instruction. Details will be shared as soon as possible. Lab courses. Classes that require laboratory work or experiential learning will have requirements for our faculty and students to maintain 6 feet of physical distance when possible and to authorize wear face coverings. Campus life. Student services. Many campus units have regular interaction with students on a daily basis, and LSU is working to determine the safest way to ensure that these units can continue to effectively meet student needs. LSU is planning to offer these services through a hybrid of in-person and online strategies, and we'll be sharing guidelines with these units in the near future so they can plan for service delivery in safe but creative ways. Administrative offices, campus offices will follow the CDC and Louisiana guidance for physical distancing and proper hygiene, and we use technology to conduct business as appropriate and necessary, including holding remote meetings. Public spaces, common spaces such as the union, the library, the bookstore, and the dining halls will be open this fall, but they will likely have capacity restrictions or authorized need to operate differently. LSU is planning these changes now and will communicate those as soon as possible. And I'm sure all of these guidelines that I just mentioned for the LSU and the LSU campuses across the state will probably also be very in line with those that are offered by the Louisiana University system, which includes the University of Louisiana at Lafayette. About time. LSU to play Southern and Grambling in football in first ever matchups, officials announced staff report. So this is a sports story that we haven't been normally doing during our broadcast, but we do have one today. LSU finalized plans to play Southern and Grambling in football for the first time in LSU history. School and officials announced Monday. LSU and Southern will meet September 10th, 2022 in Tiger Stadium. LSU and Grambling will play September 9th, 2023 in Tiger Stadium. This is an incredible opportunity to join our fan bases of these historic Louisiana institutions and championship programs, LSU Athletic Director Scott Woodward said in a statement. These dates will be days to celebrate not only football, but the state of Louisiana and all of our people. It's time, and we're all proud to be a part of it. LSU has played nearly every in-state team in the past 10 years. Tulane in 2009, UL in 2009, McNeese State in 2010, UL Monroe 2014, Louisiana Tech 2018, and Southeastern 2018. Nicholls State is scheduled to play at Tiger Stadium on October 1st, 2020, this year if things do go well. Though LSU and Southern campuses sit about 10 miles apart, the schools have never played each other. Both sides expressed mutual interest in recent years, and they came to an agreement over the last few months. We have a great relationship with all universities in our state, Coach Ed Ogeron said. It's important to LSU to have a great relationship with all of the universities in our state. And we have one last PSA to announce from LEDA. Individuals with whose hours are being reduced at work or have been laid off from employment may qualify for unemployment insurance benefits. If you're attempting to apply for unemployment insurance or not able to access the existing online account or need help resetting your password, call Lafayette's Kittiana Workforce Solutions office at 337-262-5601. Due to high call volumes, some calls may not be answered immediately, so call again at a later date or time and contact one of Louisiana's other local offices for assistance. In addition to unemployment insurance benefits, individuals looking for supplemental income can consider local employment opportunities with businesses who are seeking temporary, part-time, or full-time workers by visiting the COVID-19 Help Wanted resource page at lafayette.org/helpwanted or LEDA's virtual job fair page with local businesses seeking to hire local candidates for full-time employment and opportunities at lafayette.org/jobs. Matt, if you're listening to me, would you come back on air for a moment? Matt may be in a meeting, so I will just continue. I wanted Matt to talk about who is going to be the guest on this Friday. They have a special program that's been airing on Fridays at AOC called All Hands, I think. I'm not sure, but Matt will be the one to tell you about that. But you can go to the aocinc.org homepage to find out any information about this special program that we're airing on Fridays. And also, if you want to become a newspaper volunteer, you're more welcome to do so by going to aocinc.org, and you can sign up there and become a newspaper reading volunteer, which we hopefully, when we get back into the offices and into the podcast booth to do our Monday through Friday morning newspaper reading, you can become a volunteer. If you enjoy listening to me and to the others that do the news and want to be a part of it, please join us. And we would love to have you. If it's just once a month or once every other week, we'd love to have you come and join us. So again, this has been Bruce Cohen. I want you to stay safe, healthy, and above all, be kind. Listen to what Governor Bill Edwards dictates this week as far as phase 2 goes. Please achieve all protocols, wash your hands, sanitize whenever possible. Always wear a mask when you're outdoors. This virus is deadly, folks, and it's not going away anytime soon. So please take precautions so we can stop the spread here in our local area of Acadiana. As always, be kind to each other and have a great morning.